Ambassador Juan walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see it. Giant screens showed star maps of the galaxy, with different colors marking the territory of each empire. The human territory looked like a tiny dot compared to the vast areas controlled by other species. Juan wore a simple black suit, nothing fancy. He carried a small briefcase and looked calm, but inside he felt nervous. This was the first time humans had been invited to speak at the Galactic Council. For 50 years, other species had ignored Earth's request to join. Now they finally had a chance to be heard. The chamber was filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. The Valkorian representatives sat in the front row. They were tall, gray-skinned beings with 4 arms and red eyes. Their military uniforms were covered in medals and ribbons. Everyone knew they had the biggest fleet in the galaxy. Behind them sat the Nethys Consortium members. They looked like giant insects with shiny green shells. Their business suits were made of expensive materials that sparkled under the lights. They controlled most of the trade routes between star systems. In the back, the ancient Kretal Empire had their seats. They were the oldest species in the galaxy and looked like floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. They barely moved and spoke in whispers that somehow everyone could hear. Juan took his place at a small podium in the center of the room. The other delegates stared at him with curiosity and amusement. To them, humans were new and primitive. Earth had only discovered faster than light travel 20 years ago. Most species here had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. The council leader, a tall blue alien with 6 eyes, called the meeting to order. Today we discuss the territorial disputes in the Outer Rim sectors. Several new colonies have been established in areas claimed by multiple empires. Admiral Voss of the Valkorian hegemony stood up first. His voice was deep and commanding. The Valkorian fleet has protected these sectors for 300 years. Any new settlements must follow our laws and pay our taxes. Trade Captain Zek from the Nethys Consortium clicked his mandibles in disagreement. These trade routes belong to the Consortium. We built the shipping lanes and the space stations. Anyone who wants to trade there must use our services. The Kretal representative simply glowed brighter, which everyone understood as their way of claiming ancient rights to the territory. Juan waited for them to finish arguing. Then he pressed the button on his podium to request permission to speak. The council leader looked surprised but nodded. "Thank you," Juan said in clear, simple words. "I am here to speak for Earth and all human colonies. We have built settlements in 12 star systems near our home world. These systems are now part of human space." Several aliens laughed. Admiral Voss smiled and shook his head. "Human space? You have maybe 200 ships total. We have fleets of thousands." Juan remained calm. He opened his briefcase and took out a datapad. "I have a message from Fleet Commander Tejo of the Earth Defense Force and President Sujin of the United Earth Government." The chamber became quiet. Everyone wanted to hear what these primitive humans dared to say. Juan read from the datapad in a steady voice. "To all galactic empires and their representatives, we are formally notifying you that the star systems we have colonized are now under human protection. No foreign military ships are allowed to enter these areas. No foreign governments can claim authority over human settlements. This is our final warning. We will not ask again." The silence lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then the entire chamber erupted in laughter. Admiral Voss laughed so hard that tears came from his red eyes.
"Final warning?
You hairless apes think you can threaten us? Your entire fleet could not defeat one of our battle groups." Trade Captain Zek was clicking his mandibles rapidly, which was how his species laughed. "These humans are funny. They think they can control trade routes with cargo ships and mining vessels." Even the ancient Kretal seemed amused. Their tentacles glowed in patterns that other species recognized as laughter. The council leader tried to restore order by banging his gavel. "Ambassador Juan, surely you understand that your species is new to galactic politics. Perhaps you should start with smaller requests." Juan put the datapad back in his briefcase. His face showed no emotion. "I have delivered the message as instructed. The warning has been given." Admiral Voss stood up again, still smiling. "Let me explain something to you, human. The Valkorian hegemony has conquered 47 star systems. Our warships are the size of your cities. Our weapons can destroy planets. What exactly do you think you can do if we decide to enter your space?" Juan looked directly at the Admiral. "We hope you will choose not to find out." This made the aliens laugh even harder. Trade Captain Zek spoke between his clicking sounds. Choose not to find out? What could humans possibly do? Throw rocks at our ships? The Cretal representative finally spoke in their whispering voice. Young species often make bold claims. Time teaches them wisdom. The council leader called for a vote on the territorial disputes. The result was exactly what everyone expected. The Valkorian hegemony, Nethys Consortium, and Cretal Empire each voted to maintain their claims over the disputed sectors. They completely ignored human territorial rights. Juan stood up as the vote was announced. I will inform my government of the council's decision. Thank you for your time. As he walked toward the exit, Admiral Voss called after him. Tell your fleet commander and president that the galaxy belongs to the strong. Weak species serve strong ones. That is how it has always been. Juan stopped at the door and turned around. I will give them your message, Admiral. I am sure they will find it very interesting. After Juan left, the aliens continued to joke about the human warning. They made bets about how quickly humans would surrender when real warships appeared in their space. None of them took the warning seriously. On Earth, President Su Jin received Juan's report in her office. She read it carefully, then picked up a secure communication device. This is President Su Jin. Authorization code Alpha 77. Activate Project Silent Thunder. All phases. Begin immediately. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began to power up. Deep space monitoring stations went online. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as asteroids started charging their systems. Ships that had been listed as cargo vessels opened hidden compartments to reveal military hardware. Fleet Commander Taeho sat in his command center, watching status reports appear on his screens. His officers worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew what Project Silent Thunder meant. Sir, his communications officer said, all defense platforms are ready. All fleet units are in position. Taeho nodded. Send a message to all human colonies. Tell them the galaxy has chosen war over peace. We gave them a chance. The officer typed the message and sent it to every human settlement in space. Within hours, colonists began moving to underground shelters. Mining ships returned to base. Trade vessels changed course for home. 3 months later, Admiral Voss received permission from the Valkorian High Command to test human resolve. He was ordered to take a survey fleet into human space and establish military bases on human worlds. As his ships prepared to leave for Earth, Admiral Voss remembered the human ambassador's words. He wondered for a moment what Juan had meant by choose not to find out. Then he dismissed the thought. Humans were weak. The strong always won. That was the way of the galaxy. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. Through the massive windows, he could see his fleet spread out across space like a metal cloud. 500 warships, each one bigger than anything humans had ever built. The smallest ship in his fleet was 3 times larger than the biggest human vessel. Report, Voss commanded. His tactical officer, a young Valkorian named Crix, checked his screens. All ships are ready, Admiral. We are 12 hours from the edge of human space. Our scouts report only light defensive positions. Voss smiled, showing his sharp teeth. This would be easy. Humans had claimed they would defend their territory, but they only had small ships with weak weapons. The Valkorian fleet would crush them in minutes. What about their defense fleet? Voss asked. Only 12 ships, sir. They are moving to intercept us. Voss laughed. 12 ships against 500? These humans are either very brave or very stupid. On the other side of the solar system, Admiral Kyung sat in his command chair aboard the Terran cruiser Defiant. Around him, 11 other human ships moved in perfect formation. They looked tiny compared to the incoming Valkorian fleet. Admiral, his communications officer said, we are receiving a message from the lead Valkorian ship. Put it on the main screen. Admiral Voss appeared on the screen, looking confident and amused. I am Admiral Voss of the Valkorian hegemony. You are outgunned 500 to 12. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Kyung studied the alien's face for a moment. Then he activated his own transmitter. This is Admiral Kyung of the Earth Defense Force. You were warned 3 months ago. You chose to ignore that warning. Your warning? Voss laughed. What can 12 tiny ships do against my fleet? You are about to find out, Kyung said calmly. All human vessels prepare for combat. Begin Protocol 7. The transmission ended. Voss shook his head in disbelief. These humans really think they can fight us. Very well, all ships attack formation. Destroy them quickly. The Valkorian fleet began to move forward. Their massive ships spread out to surround the human vessels. Weapon systems powered up. Targeting computers locked onto the small human fleet. But something strange happened. The human ships did not try to run. They did not spread out to make themselves harder to hit. Instead, they moved closer together, forming a tight group. "Sir," Crix reported, "the human ships are clustering together. They are making themselves an easy target." "Perfect," Voss said. "One salvo will destroy them all." But Admiral Kyung had other plans. "All ships activate stealth systems. Begin evasive pattern Delta." Suddenly, the 12 human ships disappeared from all Valkorian sensors. The alien targeting computers lost their locks. The massive fleet was shooting at empty space. Where did they go? Voss shouted, "I don't know, sir. They just vanished." The human ships had not really vanished. They were using advanced stealth technology that made them invisible to alien sensors, but they could still see the Valkorian fleet perfectly. Captain Dong Hyun commanded one of the human destroyers. He watched his screen as the alien ships fired wildly in all directions, trying to hit targets they could not see. "Target the command ship," he ordered his weapons officer. "Fire when ready." The human weapons were different from alien technology. They did not use energy beams that could be seen in space. Instead, they fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. The Valkorians had no idea what hit them. The first projectile struck Admiral Voss's flagship in the engine section. The massive ship shuddered and began to list to one side. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Report," Voss demanded. "Sir, we have taken critical damage to the main engines. But I don't understand how. We never saw them fire." More hits struck the Valkorian fleet. Ship after ship took damage from weapons they could not see coming. The aliens began to panic. Their formations broke apart as captains tried to avoid the invisible attacks. Admiral Kyung watched the chaos with satisfaction. "Target their communication arrays. Cut off their ability to coordinate." The human fleet struck with surgical precision. They did not try to destroy every ship. Instead, they targeted specific systems. Command centers, communication equipment, weapon control systems, engine rooms. Within 2 hours, most of the Valkorian fleet was disabled. Ships drifted helplessly in space, unable to fight or run. Their crews sat in the dark, wondering how 12 small ships had defeated 500 large ones. Admiral Voss was in shock. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Valkorian military, had been torn apart by humans. It seemed impossible. "Sir," Crix said quietly, "we are receiving another transmission from the human admiral." Kyung's face appeared on the screen again. He looked calm and professional. "Admiral Voss, your fleet is defeated. We are prepared to accept your surrender." "This is impossible," Voss shouted. "How did you do this? What kind of weapons are you using?" "The same weapons your people would use," Kyung replied. "We just use them better, but your ships are so small. Your technology is primitive." Kyung smiled slightly. "Size is not everything, Admiral. Neither is technology. Sometimes experience matters more." "Experience? You have only been in space for 20 years. "That is correct. But we have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know how to adapt. We know how to overcome superior numbers. Most importantly, we know how to work together." Voss looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured. Most of his systems were damaged. He had no choice but to surrender. "What are your terms?" he asked. "Simple. You will take your remaining ships and leave human space immediately. You will report to your government that humans meant what they said. Any future attempts to enter our territory will end the same way. And if we refuse?" Kyung's expression did not change. "Then we will destroy every ship in your fleet. The choice is yours." Voss knew he was beaten. "Very well. We accept your terms." "Excellent. You have 1 hour to repair your engines and begin your journey home. Do not test our patience." The transmission ended. Admiral Voss sat in his command chair trying to understand what had happened. How had such a small force defeated his massive fleet? His tactical officer provided part of the answer. "Sir, I have been analyzing their tactics. They used our size against us. Our big ships are slower and less maneuverable. They could hit us easily while staying hidden. But how did they know where to strike? They hit our most vulnerable points every time. I think they studied our ships, sir. They knew our weaknesses before the battle started." Voss realized the truth. The humans had not won because they were stronger. They had won because they were smarter. They had prepared for this fight long before it began. As the Valkorian fleet limped away from human space, Captain Dong Hyun spoke to his crew. Excellent work, everyone. Signal the other ships. Mission accomplished. His weapons officer looked confused. Sir, why didn't we destroy them completely? We could have wiped out their entire fleet. Dong Hyun studied the retreating alien ships, because dead enemies cannot carry messages. Admiral Voss will tell his government exactly what happened here. Word will spread to the other empires. They will think twice before testing us again. And if they don't listen, then we will teach them the same lesson. But next time we might not be so merciful. Back on Earth, President Soo-jin received Admiral Kyung's report. The first test was over. Humans had proven they could defend themselves. But she knew this was only the beginning. Send a message to all fleet commanders, she ordered. Maintain alert status. The aliens will not give up easily. They will try other methods, she was right. In the Nethys Consortium headquarters, Trade Captain Zek was already planning a different kind of attack. If military force would not work, perhaps economic pressure would succeed. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were prepared for more than just shooting wars. Trade Captain Zek clicked his mandibles in frustration as he read the report from the Valkorian defeat. His office aboard the massive consortium trade station was filled with holographic displays showing shipping routes, profit margins, and supply chains across the galaxy. Those military fools, he muttered to his assistant, a smaller insect-like being named Scrix. They tried to fight humans with brute force. That never works with clever species. Scrix tilted his head. What do you suggest, Captain? The consortium board is demanding action. Human settlements are disrupting our trade routes. Zek smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. We will use our real weapon. Money. No species can survive without trade. We will cut off their supplies and force them to surrender. But, sir, humans have their own mining operations and factories. Primitive ones. Zek waved a claw dismissively. They depend on galactic trade for advanced materials. Rare metals, energy crystals, computer components. Cut off those supplies and their technology will fail within months. The Nethys Consortium controlled most of the galaxy's trade networks. They owned the shipping companies, the space stations, and the banks that financed interstellar commerce. When they decided to blockade a system, that system usually surrendered quickly. Zek activated his communication system and sent orders to consortium stations throughout the galaxy. Begin immediate embargo of all human territories. No ships carrying supplies to human worlds. No financial services for human businesses. No trade agreements with human colonies. Within days, the blockade was in place. Cargo ships that normally delivered supplies to human settlements were turned away at consortium stations. Banks refused to process payments from human companies. Trade routes to Earth were declared off-limits. On the human colony world of New Sol, Governor Minho received reports that supply ships were no longer arriving. The colony needed medical supplies, computer parts, and rare metals that could only be found in other star systems. Sir, his aide reported, the last 3 cargo ships were denied docking rights at consortium stations. They were told that humans are now considered economically hostile entities. Minho studied the supply inventory on his desk. How long can we maintain our current operations? Maybe 6 months with strict rationing. Less if any major systems fail. Minho nodded and activated his secure communication link to Earth. This is Governor Minho reporting to Earth Command. The consortium blockade is in effect. Requesting instructions. The response came from Major Jiwoo, who served as Earth's Trade Defense Coordinator. Understood, Governor. Begin Phase 2 of the Economic Defense Plan. All colonies should implement immediate self-sufficiency protocols. Phase 2, sir? Check your classified files, Governor. The ones labeled Economic Independence Protocol. President Soo-jin authorized the release of those plans yesterday. Minho accessed the classified database and began reading. His eyes widened as he realized what Earth had been preparing. This is extensive. 50 years of planning, Governor. We knew this day would come. Across human space, colonies began implementing the secret protocols. Hidden manufacturing facilities came online. Underground mining operations expanded their output. Stockpiles of critical materials that had been building for decades were opened. But the real surprise came when Earth began its counterattack. Major Jiwoo sat in the Earth Trade Command Center, surrounded by screens showing galactic economic data. Her team had been monitoring consortium activities for years, learning their weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Begin Operation Turnabout, she ordered. target their most profitable routes first. What the consortium did not know was that humans had been placing their own people throughout the galactic economy. Human engineers worked on alien space stations. Human traders had learned alien languages and customs. Human computer specialists had gained access to financial networks. The first strike hit the consortium's main shipping route between the Altair and Vega systems. Cargo ships began experiencing mysterious technical problems. Navigation systems failed at critical moments. Cargo containers were delivered to wrong destinations. Financial transactions were delayed or misdirected. Trade Captain Zek received the first reports with confusion. "What do you mean the Altair convoy is lost?" "Sir, all 12 ships report navigation failures. They cannot calculate jump coordinates. Their computers show error messages in languages we don't recognize." "Languages we don't recognize? That's impossible. Our systems use universal translation protocols." "Yes, sir. But somehow their computers are displaying text in something called Korean." Meanwhile, on Earth, computer specialist Boram smiled as she watched her programs work. Phase 1 of the cyber operation is complete. Moving to Phase 2. Boram had been working on alien computer systems for 5 years, secretly installing backdoor programs that would activate when needed. Now those programs were causing chaos throughout the consortium's network. The second wave of attacks targeted the consortium's financial systems. Automated trading programs began making bizarre decisions. Currency exchange rates fluctuated wildly. Banking computers locked out legitimate users while allowing access to unauthorized accounts. Within a week, the consortium had lost more money than they had ever made from human trade. Trade Captain Zek was desperate. How are they doing this? Humans barely understand their own technology. His technical advisor, a nervous being with too many eyes, explained what they had discovered. "Sir, it appears that humans have been infiltrating our systems for years. They have access to our trade networks, our shipping schedules, even our financial records." "That's impossible. Our security is the best in the galaxy." "Yes, sir, but they didn't break our security. They convinced us to give them access. Human engineers volunteered to work on our systems. Human traders offered to help optimize our routes. We thought they were trying to learn from us, and instead they were learning about us. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every critical system that keeps our economy running." The truth was even worse than the consortium realized. Humans had not just been gathering information. They had been preparing alternatives to everything the aliens provided. Governor Minho watched with satisfaction as his colony's new factories came online. "Report on production status." "Sir, we are now manufacturing our own computer components. The rare metals we needed are being synthesized in our new laboratories. Medical supplies are being produced at 3 times our current consumption rate. How is that possible? We never had those capabilities before." "We did, sir. We just kept them hidden. Earth scientists have been developing these technologies for decades. We built the factories in secret and stockpiled the necessary materials." The same scene was playing out on every human world. What had looked like simple mining colonies were revealed to be self-sufficient industrial centers. What had appeared to be research stations were actually manufacturing complexes. But the biggest shock came when Earth revealed its true economic weapon. Major Jiwoo activated the final phase of her plan. "Begin Operation Market Share, release all patents." Across the galaxy, human research data became freely available. Advanced manufacturing techniques, efficient energy systems, improved transportation methods. Technologies that the aliens had never imagined were suddenly public knowledge. Species that had been forced to buy expensive consortium services discovered they could build their own systems using human designs. The monopoly that had made the consortium rich for centuries crumbled in weeks. Trade Captain Zek watched his empire collapse from his office. Ship after ship canceled their consortium contracts. Station after station declared independence from consortium control. Even his own people began to question his leadership. "Sir," Scrix reported quietly, "the board is demanding an emergency meeting. Profits are down 90% galaxy-wide. And the human blockade? It has had no effect, sir. They don't need our supplies anymore. Somehow they have become completely self-sufficient." Zek realized he had made a terrible mistake. He had assumed humans were dependent on galactic trade because that was how other species survived. But humans had prepared for independence from day one. "Get me a communication link to Earth," he ordered. I need to speak with their trade representative. The response came from Major Jiwoo herself. This is Major Jiwoo. What can I do for you, Trade Captain? We wish to discuss ending the current hostilities. Perhaps we can reach an accommodation. Jiwoo's voice was polite but firm. The hostilities can end immediately, Captain. Simply lift your blockade and restore normal trade relations. And if we do that, will you stop your attacks on our systems? Captain, we are not attacking your systems. We are simply no longer supporting them. The engineers and specialists you employed were human citizens. When you declared humans to be hostile entities, they naturally returned home. Zek realized the full scope of what had happened. The consortium had become dependent on human expertise without realizing it. When the humans left, critical systems began to fail. What do you want from us? He asked. Nothing, Captain. We told you months ago that we wanted to be left alone. You chose not to listen. Now you have learned that humans do not make empty threats. But surely we can negotiate some kind of agreement. The consortium has much to offer Earth. We are always open to fair trade agreements, Captain. 1 year after the defeat of the Kretal extinction fleet, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. The grand seats where the 3 major empires had once sat in pride were now occupied by nervous, defeated representatives. The small podium where Ambassador Juan had once stood alone was gone, replaced by an elevated platform where human delegates now addressed the galaxy. Ambassador Juan walked into the chamber, but this time he was not alone. Behind him came President Su Jin, Admiral Kyung, General In-Soo, and Major Jiwoo. They wore simple uniforms, but everyone in the galaxy now knew what those uniforms represented. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Word of the human victories had spread across every star system. Some aliens came to see the new power in the galaxy. Others came to beg for mercy. All came to understand the new reality. Admiral Voss sat in what had once been the Pride section for Valkorian representatives. His uniform was stripped of medals and ribbons. His once proud military had been reduced to a small defense force protecting only their home system. Trade Captain Zek occupied a smaller seat in the back, representing what remained of the Nethys consortium. His trading empire had collapsed when other species learned they could build their own ships and space stations using human technology. Elder Thes floated in a containment field, the first time a Kretal had ever been seen in captivity. His once mighty empire had fractured into dozens of small colonies, their ancient fleets destroyed or abandoned. The council leader, the same blue alien who had dismissed human warnings a year ago, now spoke with trembling respect. The Galactic Council recognizes the delegation from Earth and the Terran Defense Alliance. President Su Jin stepped forward to address the assembly. Her voice was calm and clear, but everyone present felt the power behind her words. Thank you, Council Leader. I am President Su Jin of the United Earth Government. I speak today not as a conqueror, but as someone who tried to prevent this situation. She paused and looked around the chamber, making eye contact with the defeated Empire representatives. 1 year ago, Ambassador Juan stood in this chamber and delivered a simple message. We told you that human space was off limits to foreign military forces. We said we would not ask again. You laughed at us. The chamber was completely silent. No one dared to speak. You laughed because you saw our small fleet and assumed we were weak. You saw our peaceful nature and assumed we were helpless. You saw our warnings and assumed they were empty threats. Admiral Voss shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He remembered how confident he had been, how certain that humans would surrender quickly. But you made a critical error. Su Jin continued. You assumed that because we preferred peace we were incapable of war. You forgot that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who have prepared for conflict while hoping never to use that preparation. She activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, and it had expanded far beyond the original 12 systems. Today we control 37 star systems. We did not conquer them. They asked to join us. Species that had been oppressed by the major empires requested our protection. We gave it to them. Trade Captain Zek wanted to object, but he knew better. His own people had been among those who requested human protection after the consortium collapsed. We have established new rules for galactic civilization, Su Jin announced. First, no empire may claim territory without the consent of the inhabitants. Second, no species may be forced into economic dependence by others. Third, Any attempt to destroy or enslave another species will be met with immediate human response. Elder Thys spoke for the first time in the session, his voice carrying across the chamber through psychic projection. And if we refuse to accept these rules? President Sujin looked directly at the ancient being. Elder Thys, your people ruled the galaxy for millions of years. You had that chance. You chose to use your power to dominate and destroy other species. That era is over. You think you can enforce your will across the entire galaxy? We don't need to enforce our will, Elder. We simply need to protect those who ask for our help. And after what you three empires tried to do to us, many species are asking. Admiral Kyung stepped forward to add details about the new military reality. The Terran defense fleet now includes ships from 47 different species. We are not an empire. We are an alliance of free peoples who have chosen to work together. And if someone threatens this alliance, asked a representative from a minor species. General Insu answered that question. We have proven that we can defend ourselves against any threat. Our solar system defenses have been replicated in every allied system. Our technology is shared freely with our allies. Any aggressor will face not just human forces, but the combined fleets of all free species. The aliens began to understand the true scope of what had happened. Humans had not conquered the galaxy through force. They had liberated it by example. Species that had lived under the rule of the three empires for centuries had suddenly found themselves free to choose their own paths. Major Jiwoo presented the economic aspects of the new order. Trade between worlds is now conducted through the Free Commerce Network. No single organization can control galactic trade. Competition is open and fair. Prices are set by supply and demand, not by monopoly. What about our existing trade agreements? Asked a representative from the Outer Rim. Any agreement made under threat or economic coercion is void, Jiwoo replied. You are free to negotiate new agreements as equals, or to develop your own economic systems using the technology we have made available. The session continued for hours, as the new galactic order was explained in detail. But the most important moment came when a young alien representative asked the question everyone was thinking. What do humans want from us? President Sujin smiled, the first time she had shown any emotion during the session. We want what we have always wanted. To be left alone to develop our own civilization in peace. To trade fairly with our neighbors. To explore the galaxy and learn about the universe. That's all? That's all. We are not interested in ruling other species. We are not interested in taking your resources or controlling your governments. We simply want to be free to make our own choices, and we want the same freedom for everyone else. Ambassador Huan spoke for the first time in the session. 1 year ago I stood here and warned you not to enter human space. Today I extend an invitation. Human space is open to all peaceful visitors. Our technology is available to all who need it. Our friendship is offered to all who want it. And if we choose not to accept your friendship, Admiral Voss asked bitterly. Then you are free to go your own way, Huan replied. As long as you do not threaten others, we have no quarrel with you. The session ended with the formal establishment of the Galactic Charter of Free Species. Representatives from over 200 worlds signed the document, agreeing to the principles of freedom, equality, and peaceful cooperation. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, Elder Thys paused beside the human delegation. You have won, he admitted. But victory changes those who achieve it. How do we know you will not become what you defeated? President Sujin considered the question carefully. You don't know, Elder. Power does corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is why we have built safeguards into our alliance. No single species, not even humans, can make decisions for everyone else. We lead by example, not by command. And if humans ever do become corrupted by power, then I hope other species will do to us what we did to you. Stand up, fight back, and remind us that freedom is worth defending. Months later, Admiral Kyung stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching human and alien ships patrol the borders of free space together. The galaxy was more peaceful than it had been in centuries. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a distress call from the Andromeda sector. An unknown force is attacking civilian ships. Kyung studied the tactical display. Plot a course and signal the Alliance fleet. We have a job to do. As the mixed fleet of human and alien ships jumped to hyperspace, Kyung reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy had learned that humans meant what they said. When they promised protection, they delivered it. When they offered friendship, it was genuine. When they gave warnings, those warnings should be heeded. The age of galactic empires was over. The age of free species had begun, and at the center of it all was a simple truth that had taken the galaxy a year of war to understand. When humans said, "We won't ask again," they meant it. Back on Earth, President Sujin stood in her office looking out at the night sky. Somewhere among those stars, human ships were protecting alien worlds. Human technology was helping primitive species reach for the stars. Human ideals were spreading across the galaxy. She thought about the warning Ambassador Juan had delivered so long ago. No empire can enter Terran space. We won't ask again. The galaxy had tested that warning and found it to be true. Now the same message was heard throughout space, spoken by dozens of species in hundreds of languages, but always meaning the same thing. We are free. We will defend our freedom. We won't ask again. And across the galaxy, potential aggressors heard that message and chose to find other paths. Thanks for this story. In the deepest regions of space, where stars were old and dying, the Kretal Empire held its council. The ancient beings floated in a chamber filled with glowing gas, their jellyfish-like bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that served as their language. Elder Thys, oldest of the Kretal, spoke in thoughts that resonated through the minds of the other council members. The young species has defeated the militarists and the merchants. This isn't unexpected. Perhaps, replied Elder Van, but they have faced only crude challenges. The Valkorians attack with brute force. The consortium thinks only of profit. Neither understands true warfare. And we do? Asked Elder Rix, the youngest of the ancient council. We have fought wars since before their son was born, Thys responded. We have destroyed civilizations that spanned 1,000 worlds. We know how to end species permanently. The Kretal had ruled the galaxy for millions of years before other intelligent life had evolved. They had watched empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. Young species sometimes showed promise, but they always fell to time and superior wisdom. The humans present a problem, Elder Van continued. They are teaching other species to resist. If left unchecked, they will upset the natural order. Then we will check them, Thys decided. Deploy the extinction fleet, target their core worlds. End this disruption quickly. The extinction fleet was the Kretal's ultimate weapon, 50 massive ships, each one capable of destroying an entire planet. They had not been used for 10,000 years, but they remained ready for species that needed to be eliminated. On Earth, General Insu stood in the deep command bunker beneath the Korean peninsula. The facility was buried so far underground that even nuclear weapons could not reach it. Around him, dozens of officers monitored sensors placed throughout the solar system. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward our territory. Configuration unknown, but the ships are enormous. How enormous? Each one is larger than anything we have ever seen. The lead vessel appears to be the size of a small moon. Insu studied the tactical display. Time to intercept? 48 hours at their current speed. Send the alert to all defensive stations. Activate every protocol. This is not a test. Across the solar system, human preparations that had been building for decades came online. What aliens had seen as asteroid mining operations revealed their true purpose. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as space rocks began charging their systems. The moon itself split open like a flower, revealing massive railguns that had been built inside the lunar core. Mars opened hidden hangar bays, releasing swarms of fighters that had been constructed in underground factories. But the most impressive sight was Earth itself. The planet's surface began to change as camouflaged military installations revealed themselves. What had looked like cities were actually fortress complexes. What had appeared to be power plants were weapon systems designed to defend against orbital bombardment. Dr. Yoon Seo, Earth's chief scientist, stood in her laboratory watching the activation sequence. 50 years of preparation, she whispered to her assistant. I hope it's enough. Ma'am, the Kretal ships are incredibly advanced. Our intelligence suggests they have technology far beyond anything we've encountered. That may be true, Yoon Seo replied, but they have one critical weakness. Which is, they're old. They've been using the same tactics for millions of years. They expect their enemies to fight the same way everyone else has fought. The Kretal extinction fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Elder Thys examined the human defenses through his ship's sensors. He saw the weapon platforms, the hidden bases, the defensive formations. Impressive, he admitted to his tactical officer. They have been more prepared than expected. But preparation cannot overcome absolute power. Shall we begin the planetary bombardment, Elder? Not yet. First, we will demonstrate our superiority. Target their largest defensive station. Use minimum power. Let them see what they face. The lead Kretal ship fired a single beam at a human weapons platform orbiting Earth. The platform was the size of a skyscraper and mounted enough firepower to destroy a fleet. The alien beam struck it and turned it into vapor in seconds. Now broadcast our terms, Thys ordered. Surrender or watch your worlds burn. General Insu received the message in his command bunker. The Kretal ultimatum was simple. Submit to their rule or face complete annihilation. Sir, his communications officer asked, how should we respond? Insu looked at the display showing the massive alien fleet. Each ship was powerful enough to destroy Earth's entire military. But humans had not survived for millennia by giving up when faced with superior enemies. Send them our response, he ordered. Tell them we decline their offer. And after that, sir? After that, we show them why old empires fall. The Kretal ships began their attack, targeting human worlds and defensive positions. Their weapons were devastating. Planets cracked under the assault. Space stations were reduced to dust. But something unexpected happened. The humans did not try to fight the alien ships directly. Instead, they began a different kind of warfare. Captain So-hyun commanded a small squadron of human stealth ships. While the Kretal fleet focused on destroying large targets, her ships slipped past their defenses undetected. Target their supply lines, she ordered. Every ship that size needs enormous amounts of energy and materials. Find their weakness. What the ancient aliens had not expected was that humans would target their logistics. The Kretal ships were incredibly powerful, but they needed constant resupply from their homeworlds. Their energy systems required rare fuels. Their weapons needed exotic materials. Human strike teams began hitting supply convoys light years away from the battle. They destroyed fuel depots and manufacturing centers. They sabotaged transportation networks that had been unchanged for thousands of years. Within days, the mighty extinction fleet began to run low on ammunition and power. But the real surprise came when Dr. Yoon Seo activated her secret project. All stations. This is Dr. Yoon Seo. Prepare for Revelation Protocol. Execute in 3, 2, 1, now. Across human space, hidden transmitters began broadcasting on frequencies the Kretal had never imagined could be used. The signals were not weapons. They were information. Complete technical specifications for Kretal technology. Detailed analysis of their ships, their weapons, their defenses. Scientific data that humans had been gathering for 50 years through careful observation and analysis. How is this possible? Elder Thys demanded as his tactical systems reported massive security breaches. How do they know our secrets? His science officer, a being who had served for millennia, provided the shocking answer. Elder, they have been studying us since first contact. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every public appearance. They were gathering intelligence. But our technology is millions of years more advanced than theirs. Yes, Elder, but they have something we do not. They have creativity. They found ways to analyze our systems that we never considered possible. The information broadcast had an immediate effect. Every species in the galaxy suddenly had access to Kretal technology. The ancient empire's military advantage disappeared overnight, but humans had saved their greatest surprise for last. Elder, the tactical officer reported, our sensors are detecting new energy signatures throughout the solar system. The readings are impossible. What the Kretal were seeing was the activation of humanity's ultimate weapon. Not a single device, but an entire system that turned the solar system itself into a weapon. Asteroid fields became projectile launchers. Planetary magnetic fields were weaponized. Even the sun's energy was redirected through massive collectors built in secret over decades. General Insu watched the display as his ultimate plan unfolded. Target every ship in their fleet simultaneously. Fire when ready. The attack came from every direction at once. Asteroids accelerated to incredible speeds struck Kretal ships. Energy beams fired from planetary surfaces pierced their shields. Swarms of small fighters overwhelmed their defensive systems. Elder Thys watched in horror as his invincible fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered galaxies were being torn apart by humans using the solar system itself as a weapon. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever defeated the Kretal." His final message to the Kretal homeworld was brief. "The humans are not like other species. They do not fight as we expected. They have turned their entire star system into a fortress. Retreat, warn the others. Never underestimate them again." As the surviving Kretal ships fled into hyperspace, General Insu allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The oldest empire in the galaxy had learned the same lesson as the others. "Sir?" his aide asked. "What are our orders now?" "Now we prepare for peace," Insu replied. "But we remain ready for war. The galaxy has learned that humans keep their promises, both the good ones and the bad ones." In the ruins of 3 defeated empires, a new understanding was beginning to spread. The small, primitive species from Sol had become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and they had done it not through conquest but through preparation, intelligence, and the simple willingness to defend their homes at any cost. The galaxy would never be the same.